Vasan. I'd like to start with you, please. And you've talked a lot about refugees, and I know your expert work within the Canadian Council of Refugees is very important. You've spoken about fairness and dignity for asylum seekers repeatedly. I'm just curious if you have any suggestions around settlement services or procedural reforms, how we can ensure that they're proper and robust to help those who are migrating here to land well within Canada and be successful.
Thank you very much for the question. I'm engaged also a little bit by some of the recent exchanges, so I don't know if I'll have an opportunity to offer alternative perspectives. But your question is really important because in order to ensure that people who are provided protection through the asylum system in Canada are set up for success and not only receive safety, but then have what they need to contribute and thrive as full members of society, of our democracy and our economy. There is a lot more that we can do to reflect on building a system for asylum with dignity, as we say. There have been some critical, helpful first steps made by the Canadian government. We propose that there are at least 4 other key areas that require reform. One is that we need to establish reception centers to provide kind of orientation, triage, and referral services. And one has been set up in the Peel region, which is a very promising sign, but needs to be replicated. And there doesn't seem to be a clear follow-up plan. When claimants first arrive, they need information about where services are available and what the requirements are for them. Secondly, it's really important that the system think about a way to create cost-effective models for transitional housing for claimants. And we already have the know-how and the solutions in this country. There is, from the nonprofit sector, a network of at least 35 organizations across the country that offer already short-term and transitional housing for refugee claimants. These programs operate at a fraction of the cost of hotels and homeless shelters. They help claimants to find a lawyer, a job, and to move on to longer-term housing. And critically, establishing this kind of interim housing for claimants eases pressures on cities' emergency shelters. With predictable long-term funding, those models could be successfully saved up. So we could literally save money and save lives. Instead of the key is to invest in housing and build solutions that will make everyone most secure, instead of sort of spending billions to just block people from reaching safety at all and expanding powers for mass deportations. I will take a side moment to say that I think it's really important to reflect that the shortcomings and lack of action to, in fact, invest in housing in this country, social housing, affordable housing, and housing for all Canadians, which is an absolutely critical human right and need, can't be linked to the failures of recent short-term, or the question of recent immigration fluctuations. There is actually no correlation between the lack over decades of investment in housing and changes at immigration levels in moments in time. When immigration levels fell at the time of COVID, we did not see increases in available or in investments in housing. Housing responds to policy decisions from government and incentives in the market. And so it's really a kind of a scapegoating scenario to link them. A third critical issue is the one you've named in terms of making claimants eligible for support services that are already offered to all newcomers. The government, we have in Canada a highly developed network of organizations across the country that offer specialized services to new arrivals. But their hands are tied because they're not allowed to serve refugee claimants until they reach protected person status, which is 85% of claimants last year. And so we're just losing the 2 years when we could be supporting people with the very infrastructure that would help ensure a bright
I just want to ask you in the last minute and a half to also speak about how this helps with our economic capacity, GDP, and also the employment or full employability of those individuals who are given permission to work later on, 2 years later. You can just speak a bit about that too.
Yes, absolutely. I'll just say that the last element is legal aid coverage. Legal aid coverage is kind of critical for them to have access. When you think about the track record of refugee claimants, when they're provided with that support is to how to get a work permit, what are the options for where housing is. They find housing, they get a job, and they are well on their way to contribute to Canadian society. When we introduce in the system gaps that prevent their ability, for example, the renewal of work permits or the lack of a support service at the beginning that would have enabled them access to those to the information about where they find language training, where they find their application for the work permit, those are the things that prevent them from becoming fully participant in both in the economy and society. So when we enable people with the information to get on their way and live their full lives, they absolutely perform. And that's what we see in the economic data, both for immigrants and for refugee claimants.
Thank you.